Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Offroad YouTube 101. Today, we're talking about a really cool topic, GoPros. As you can see, we got a lineup all the way from the Hero 1 up to the 10. We're going to be talking about my GoPro settings, how I set my cameras to get the best capture during our trail rides, how to set up audio, and other tips and tricks related to getting the best footage you can using these tiny little action cams that pack a lot of punch. As you can see, we got a brand new GoPro 10 sitting here. I haven't even opened this thing, so we're gonna go through that. We're gonna unbox it and take a look at it, and we're gonna compare the GoPro 10 to the GoPro Hero 1 and the rest of the lineup here. I've shot with pretty much every GoPro throughout the years. They're some of my go-to cameras and have been for a long time. What you can capture with a GoPro these days is absolutely mind-blowing. So stay tuned, we're gonna go over a lot of cool information. Alright, here we have it, guys. We got my lineup of GoPros. Everything from my first GoPro, which is an original GoPro Hero, the one that started it all, arguably. That's the one that started the action cam craze. And here we've got the newest GoPro, the GoPro 10. So it's going to be pretty cool to actually put these ones side by side. I'm assuming that over the years, if you were to go talk to the guys at GoPro, they'd probably tell you that somewhere around the 7 or so is where the GoPro really became what they likely envisioned it to be when they came up with this concept of a camera that could do it all in a small package that was rugged and capable. It's taken them some time, obviously, to develop everything they need, do the R&D, and get to where they are now. But when you look at where they started with this original GoPro Hero, and you look at where they've come, it really is an awesome transition. So let's dig into all this and let's talk about my experience with GoPros, and let's answer some really common questions I get. What GoPro settings are you using? What format are you filming in? Are you using 1080, 2.7, 4K? GoPro 10, 5.3K. I know, mind-blowing. 5.3K at 60 frames a second, mind-blowing. 4K at 120 frames a second on the new GoPro 10. Craziness. Original GoPro, what do we got here? 720 at 60 frames. Oh, wait. 1080p at a solid 30 frames a second. Man, what an evolution. So let's dig in there. I'm going to try and break this down in a way that makes sense, and I'm going to try and touch on most of the common questions I get asked in the videos. I'm also going to try and keep this video pretty concise. If there's specific questions you have or you want to dive into more depth, leave me a comment and let me know what you're asking. I'm also going to release another separate video that's going to focus just on audio capture while riding and filming. So we will touch on audio in this video, but we'll dive deeper into audio in a separate episode, because audio is definitely the hardest part of capturing good quality content off-road. All right, guys, so we're zoomed in here. Let's take a look at these cameras. So we got the 10 here. We'll set that guy aside for now. Here we have the original Hero 1 camera, the one that started it all, the GoPro Hero. Very basic setup. You used to have to use a plastic hard case for these. They were not weather resistant. They weren't water or splash proof. As you can see, it used a standard SD card at the time still, not a micro SD. The battery case was back here. None of this was weather sealed. They relied on the hard case to weather seal the camera. The audio on the camera was far from good. Once you put it in a weatherproof case, it became absolutely garbage. As I mentioned in a previous video, I find with GoPro you get a big improvement and then kind of some moderate improvement and then a big improvement, some moderate improvement. So the GoPro Hero 1, it was a trendsetter. It started the action cam game, and basically all the other knockoffs you see from off-brand companies have been trying to keep up with this brand. They set the bar. So the GoPro Hero 2 was kind of a cool improvement. There wasn't too many big changes, and then the GoPro 3 and the 3 Plus came out. This was a camera I used a lot. This is a GoPro Hero 3 Plus, and this camera really stepped it up. It had 1080 60 frames. The audio was better. It still wasn't weather sealed. It still relied on a hard case, which destroyed the audio. This camera is broken. The lens is messed up on it. But as you can see, they had gone to a micro SD card at the time. They had cleaned up the design. It's a lot smaller, and by the looks of it, if you look at the future cameras, they probably went a little too compact in this design, and you'll see they got a little bigger again in the future generations. So this camera offered a lot more power than its predecessors. We won't focus too much on those older cameras because unless you've used one, you really won't get your hands on one now. And going back to using a 3 is kind of a waste of time. The 4 was also a good camera. The 3 Plus was very similar to the 4. But before we jump away from that, there's still a very heavy mod community surrounding the GoPro Hero 4s, where there's companies out there that modify the cameras and put all sorts of really cool lenses on them, because you still have a camera with a lot of processing power in a very small package that you can fit into a lot of applications where you just can't put like a professional camcorder, which is why these are good for action sports or strapping to your head or a bicycle or in a vehicle. So we're gonna skip the 4 again, and we're gonna go to the 5. I feel that the 5 is really where GoPro took a big step, because they revolutionized the design of the camera and got rid of the hard case. They made the actual camera itself weatherproof. I think it's about 33 feet waterproof. I think all the cameras since then have kind of maintained that standard. You didn't have to worry about putting a hard case on and completely getting rid of any audio quality. The audio improved greatly on the 5s. There was still a lot of problems with things like wind noise, which is something you'll run into with just about any camera when there's wind. But these ones, you remember, like, there's tiny little mics on here. There's a mic there. I think there's a mic port here on it, and under here, if I'm not mistaken, or actually here and here. They move them around on various cameras, but there's 2 or 3 mics on all these cameras, and the GoPros have an ability of using like a stereo mode, or they have the ability of using like a wind reduction mode where they pick up on wind noise and then they switch to the camera with the least wind noise. Hasn't worked well for them really, because the audio will cut in and out. The audio levels will change drastically. So most people will tell you that it's best to use stereo mode. I also agree with that. And I'll show you some tricks later on how you can reduce wind noise very easily. So the 5 was a huge improvement. The 5 offered 2.7K footage. I think the 4 did as well, but it offered 2.7 and 60 frames, which was awesome, which was a massive improvement over 1080. And it also offered 1080 and 60 frames and some in-betweens. Like I think they'd offered like 1080 at like 120, stuff like that. But we won't get into the nitty-gritty of that. You can look up all these stats online if you really want to dig into that. We're going to go over more of the like bare bones real-world function of these. Let's step up to the GoPro 6. The GoPro 6 wasn't a massive change from the 5. It was one of those like intergenerational ones. I would consider the 5 being a massive revolution, and then the 6 kind of cleaning up some of the stuff that the 5 maybe fell short on. And the big change on the 6 was that GoPro had given you 4K at 60 frames. Now, mind you, it was really, really stressing out the chipset in here. At 4K at 60 is starting to put a lot of pressure on the chipset and the battery. Also, on this camera, they gave you an improved digital stabilization. The GoPro 6 is really where the hypersmooth stabilization started like getting pretty mind-blowing. Now we'll go to the GoPro 7s. These 3 cameras are GoPro 7s. They're my 3 go-to cameras. I've been using these for quite a while. Each one of them is a few months older than the other as I stepped up. The 7 perfected, for lack of better terms, this chassis. They had worked out all the bugs. They had 4K at 60 frames a second still. It was a lot more stable. The audio was much better. The big problem with this one was still definitely when you were shooting in 60 frames a second, 4K, with a really rough, bumpy environment, and the Hypersmooth 2.0 was working really hard, you were really straining that little GoPro battery. I mean, this is what's powering that camera, this little battery. So there's a lot of power packed into this camera, and in order to use the stabilization, 4K, and everything else in this, you would generate a lot of draw on this battery, which would lead to also a lot of heat, which would sometimes lead to the camera shutting down or freezing up due to overheat scenarios. Because you're just trying to pull a lot out of a really small package. And if you know much about lithium-ion batteries, then you'll know that lithium-ion batteries do not like heat spikes. They don't like excessive heat. They don't like extreme cold. So GoPros have always been plagued in cold weather with not wanting to fire up, with the battery life being terrible, or if your batteries got cold, they just wouldn't kick in. So there was a lot of strategies you have to use that we'll go over a little later on how to maintain battery life in a GoPro, and tips and tricks on order to keep your GoPro as reliable as you can in the field. I would say that the 7 was probably like one of my favorite and still most highly recommended cameras that they made. Bang for buck, this camera is hard to beat. If it's getting hard to get your hands on a new GoPro 7, but if you can pick up a really decent quality used one, you can probably pick one up for around $200. I highly suggest it. You'll see, I wasn't kidding when I said battery life is a thing you really need to think about. There's about like 30 batteries, actually like 25 batteries there. These are all GoPro 7 batteries. But the beauty is GoPro kept the battery the same between the 5, 6, and the 7. Thank you, GoPro. Stuff like that means so much to people that invest in a set of hardware like this GoPro. I've been using the 5, 6, 7, and it was my go-to cameras for years. I got to keep using all my batteries throughout those whole years. I just kept adding batteries and adding batteries and adding batteries, knowing that they were the same. Now, I don't have a GoPro 8 or a GoPro 9 here. The GoPro 8 in my books was like a black sheep. They made the camera a little bigger. They added some cool features, like they were the first, the 8 I think was the first one to be able to take advantage of like the media mod, where you could put the skeleton around it with a bigger, like a shotgun mic. They were the first ones to utilize the light mod, stuff like that, which was really cool. They changed the battery size and they changed up the camera. And I think it was a big learning process for them. I think the GoPro, I can't remember if it was the 8 or the 9 that introduced Hypersmooth 3.0, but the 8 was definitely growing pains. The 9 came out and they cleaned things up. They utilized the media mods, they utilized the lighting mods, they did change the camera sizing a little bit, and they really maxed out the chipset, in my opinion. They really kind of maxed out the abilities of what that camera had to offer. It was running the Hypersmooth 3.0 with that, shooting at 4K. You were really straining the camera. It was a big improvement over the 7s in video quality, I found. Audio quality was also better, especially when utilizing like the additional microphones. In the past, if you had wanted to run an external microphone on, let's say, like these GoPro 5, 6, 7s, you had to get rid of the weatherproof ability of the camera. You had to open up the side panel here. Oh, this one's damaged. It got hit by a rock or something. It's dented. I don't know if you can see it on the video. So yeah, you had to open up the side panel of the camera here, the access port. There we go. You had to pull that off, and you could tie into the USB-C there, and then it would give you a 3.5 millimeter microphone adapter, like a standard one, or like I don't know what that plug's called, like some other mic adapter thing. And you had to use this adapter to record audio onto an external mic. And for a while, I used an external shotgun mic and stuff like that. And if your application that you're using it in was like an in-car setting or something like that, it really, really did improve the audio quality and the depth of the audio. But it got rid of the weather sealing ability. Now, there was third-party covers you could get that would still seal this pretty well and let you run a mic. You could modify a hard case by like cutting a hole in it like I did here and letting you still utilize this microphone input, and still maintain like your splash proof ability. Maybe not your submersion, but I never really had to submerse. It was usually splashes and mud puddles and stuff like that and dust that I was dealing with. So it allowed you to utilize the rugged capabilities of a hard case, as well as the insulating factors of a hard case, yet still maintain the audio quality of an external microphone. So that was cool. It was a nice feature. It would let you record off this mic onto your GoPro, or you could even pull the audio onto an external audio recorder. Speaking of external audio, nothing will give you the audio quality of like a proper external audio recorder. This is a 4-channel, so it records full surround or 2-channel stereo. This is a Zoom mic. It's an expensive microphone and the cool thing about microphones is they're very rugged. You can basically not destroy a microphone unless you crush it or something, or really like submerge it. But this thing's been wet, covered in mud, like dropped in puddles, and it works amazing. This Zoom H2N handy recorder has helped me capture some amazing audio, especially in the GoPro 5 and 6 era. I would have this mounted in my vehicle and I would sync it. You'd see me go in videos, you'd see me clap so that I could sync it in the post-processing. Or another handy tool to use to sync audio is a dog clicker. It gives you a good click that you can visually see on your audio timeline. Or if you're using a program like Adobe Premiere Pro, then there's an automatic sync feature that picks up spikes like this. That is the way Adobe wants it. It wants 1 and then 2 quick snaps, and then the software will pick up the audio on here, the audio on there, and sync the clips automatically for you most of the time. But the hand clap is usually what I use out in the field. Just like that. I'm going to use that to sync my mic audio here with my camera audio so that I can line everything up and my voice and my lips and everything are in sync. So if you really want to utilize the best audio that you possibly can, then the onboard mics on most cameras will never compare to a standalone microphone. So this kind of a setup on a budget is your best bet if you're doing race car footage, if you're doing in-car footage, if you have a windshield and wind noise isn't an issue and you want cockpit footage, then you get yourself one of these. You mount it somewhere nice inside your vehicle where it won't vibrate or rattle or pick up any other, too much background noise. You put it in a spot where you like it and it picks up all the ambient noise, the engine noise, the suspension, the bumps, the debris flying, all that. And then you sync it with your camera that could be mounted outside of your vehicle even, that's picking up straight wind noise. So that's a huge feature to focus on. If you really want to lock in audio, which is the hardest part of a lot of recordings, especially using these smaller cameras that don't have the ability to do so, then get yourself a standalone audio recorder. There's various types you can use. You could use a shotgun mic, which is a directional one, or you can use a non-directional like surround sound mic like this. We'll get into the details of audio capture in a separate video. I just wanted to touch on that. So we'll set that guy aside. There's a lot of other cool features for the 5, 6, 7s, all the cameras coming forward. There's like this wireless remote control from GoPro that lets you like start and stop your cameras, and you can sync multiple cameras with this and start and stop them all at the same time. I find the problem with running stuff like this is I always have the GPS and the Bluetooth and everything turned off on my cameras because they just draw more battery power, and battery life is the biggest struggle I have. Now, you can use like a USB-C cable. So you can use like a USB-C cable like this and grab your camera. Where's the one I got? And you can plug into here. And on this end, you could plug that into like an adapter. You could plug that into a big power bank, like those big charger packs, like the big batteries, or a booster pack. You could plug it into there. And that'll give you like unlimited battery life. So having an additional battery pack is a good idea. Sometimes on my front mounting cameras, what I would do is I would run this to like this cigarette lighter or a battery pack, or on a rear mounted camera, I would run like a big charger pack. And that way I didn't have to worry about my camera being on standby or running for extended periods of time, knowing that I only get about 30 or 40 minutes of battery life. I could extend that battery life to basically the problem becoming the SD card space. So instead of having 40 minutes of battery life, you could easily extend it to 3 to 4 hours. So it's a nice cheap trick is to use like the $20, $30 battery packs, like the charge packs you can find for your cell phone. And that really does, I find, help extend record times. And that applies to all these newer cameras, or you can just hardwire it into your vehicle, especially if it's out of the elements. We'll go over camera mounts and mounting locations and types of mounts in a separate video as well, because that's a drawn out topic. But if you mount in the similar locations all the time that you know work for your setup, that's where hardwiring and not relying on the battery really takes a big or makes a lot of sense. And hardwiring also makes a lot of sense in cold climates. Like when it's cold out, like, you know, like snowing and really frigid out, then you can't rely on that battery. So what I do is I run a battery, and then I also have it plugged in so it's constantly charging, and the battery acts as like the buffer. So if I turn off my machine for a few minutes and it cuts power, the camera doesn't stop recording or turn off, the battery kicks in right away. When I turn that vehicle on, it kicks back into charge mode. Now when it's hot and you're using the external battery, now when it's hot and you want to record with extended time, or if you want to limit like overheat situations, this battery is a massive heat sink. It gets really hot and it overheats the camera. So if you take the battery out and leave the battery compartment empty, then you're not generating all that heat. And then you plug in your camera and you run it without a battery off straight power, your camera's not going to overheat anymore. That's like a big tip I can give you. So even if you're not car mounting it and you're having overheat issues because you're in a hot, humid climate, for example, and you're shooting 4K and it's really bumpy, then get this, plug it into a battery pack, strap the battery pack to like the bottom handle of like your selfie stick or something like that. So you'll have the battery on there and a cable running up, and you can shoot off the battery instead of the onboard battery, and then the heat is in the big battery pack itself rather than within the camera body, which will prevent the overheat scenarios. These are all little things I've picked up and learned along the way, because I've lost tons of great footage with these cameras glitching out. And unfortunately, I mean, it's not like the GoPro's crap. It's just they're trying to pack a lot into a small package. So now that we've gone over a bit of the GoPro history here, why don't we shift into the future? Or the present, actually. Oh, before we do that, SD cards. You want to use good quality SD cards. A lot of the problems that you'll run into shooting with your GoPros will be based on the fact that you're running into corruption issues or data transfer issues. So you want to get yourself at least a SanDisk Extreme. I run only SanDisk. It's the only card I haven't had issues with. It's supported by GoPro. You can go on their site and see supported cards. I think these are the best ones. You don't want to really run anything over 128 gigs, I find. I've had the best results with SanDisk Extreme 64 or 128 gigabyte cards. They're moderately priced online, and they work very well. So SanDisk Extreme, the gold ones at least, or the SanDisk cards up from this, like the steps up, nothing below. Unless you only want to shoot 1080, then you don't need a SanDisk Extreme. If you're only going to shoot 1080, you can just go ahead and use yourself like a SanDisk Ultra, like I got here. These are the more generic cheap cards. Also recommend sticking to around 128 gigabyte cards or a 64, but 128 is a sweet spot. Even for 4K footage, you get a lot of time. So yeah, 128 SanDisk Extreme for 4K, or I mean, 2.7 I would recommend running that, anything over 1080, but you can get away with 2.7K and definitely 1080 on a SanDisk Ultra. But if you got the extra few bucks, just buy the better card, seriously. And then you're going to transfer them to your computer using an adapter like one of these usually. Using the SD card size adapter has a much higher transfer rate than just a USB 3.0. This is the fastest method to transfer your footage onto your computer, is put it into an adapter like this and plug it into your SD card reader. One more thing, a cheap, easy way to improve your audio quality is get yourself a few of these like wind noise reduction foamy sock things. They slip right over your camera. They're not expensive. I think you can usually get like 2 for $10 or something online. Doesn't matter which ones you get. Just look around and find the ones that fit your camera. And they don't always fit perfect, but as long as they don't obstruct your lens you're good. They get dirty, you take them home and you wash them in the sink like any regular sponge, and they will cut down on wind noise significantly, and just even little stuff rubbing up against the camera. In the episode where we talk about audio, I'm going to show you guys how to build like a little piece of like, get a dead cat, which is like the furry thing on a microphone, and we're going to cut them up and we're going to stick them over the mic ports to reduce wind noise. Okay, let's dig into the GoPro 10. I'm really looking forward to this. Never done an unboxing video. Well, it's not new anymore. These GoPros used to come wrapped in these big plastic boxes, but it looks like now they've upgraded to this nifty carry case. I really like this. Cool. Your camera must be updated before you can use it. Very good tip, GoPro. Always, guys, always keep your firmware up to date. Make sure you update your firmware. It's really important. There's a ton of GoPro updates that come out, even like frame rate improvements and stuff like that, and stability issues. Always make sure you do this. It's so easy to just download the GoPro app on your phone and use that and keep your cameras up to date. And it's also a cool way to review your footage. Wow. Oh yeah. Man, that's sexy. So we got our regular kind of sticky mounts there. Oh wow, that battery is significantly bigger. Look at that. Yeah, we got quite a bit more battery here. It's way thicker. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it's bigger and thicker. Yeah, they've really stepped up the battery. That's like a solid 30% size increase. Oh wow, got another mount there. Oh, just one sticky mount, eh? Come on, guys. You can give us a little bit more than that for the price we paid for these. Look at that front-facing screen. Wow. It says recyclable on there. It's paper. I like this case. That's cool. So it's wrapped in a piece of paper here so it doesn't get scratched up. Oh, wow. This camera's much bigger, actually. Significantly bigger. Let's put this case aside. Oh man, this is awesome. So again, it tells you your camera must be updated before you can use it. Cool. Look at that. What a sweet setup. Let's compare it to the GoPro 7. Yeah, it's noticeably bigger. So remember cell phones used to be like bricks, then they got so small you couldn't find them wherever you put them, you'd lose them in your pocket, and then they started getting bigger again. I think what they've done here too is realize that they need a little bit more space to pack the punch of what they're after. Bigger battery, bigger screen, bigger, easier to hit buttons on top there. The nice front facing screen, the bigger panels on the sides. Oh wow, those look cool. I don't know how to work this thing. We'll figure that out. Oh yeah, so you don't need a case on these anymore. Like the frame. On this 5, 6, and 7, you still had to utilize this frame, which was your mounting mechanism, and it would hold the camera. Here, you don't need the frame. Everything's built in. There's your little connector. That goes on to here. Cool. You know it's a 10 because it's got GoPro written in blue, and the 10 over here. You've got your mode button. They've switched sides for the mode button. The mode button used to be on this side. Now the mode button's on this side. Okay. I didn't want to pull on this too hard at first. So in order to release the battery side, you just pull down on this guy. You got your SD card, your battery slot, and oh, that's where your USB-C is, it looks like it. Yeah, so your USB-C is in there. So running this guy without a, running this guy off just straight power is going to require you to either keep this cover open like this or remove the side cover, which really opens the camera up to the elements. So I see for certain applications that could be a downside, but at the same time, the battery life should be better. Let's slap that battery in there. And we can put a card in there while we're at it. Lock that down. Looks like there's mic ports under here, a mic over here, a mic up here. Yeah, so the audio is supposedly significantly improved on these, but we're gonna improve it even more by unboxing and running this media mod. Let's see if it powers up. Sure does. Oh, it's gonna go to the load screen. I don't feel like setting this camera up right now. Yeah, I agree with the legal stuff. So I'm gonna turn it off right now. So we'll dig into this camera. I'm actually going to use it for the first time this weekend, so that should be pretty exciting. It really looks like they've stepped up their game even more once again. That front-facing screen is really cool. I'm excited about it. Let's dig into the media mod. This is the shotgun mic. So they send you another mount, cool. And then here's the main media mod part. Make sure there's nothing else in there. So here we have the microphone with the wind noise reduction. It's got a rear-facing mic portion here by the looks of it. So when you're talking behind the camera, it's there. It's got the front-facing shotgun and also the side, so you get good surround. And oh wow, I'm super stoked already. I didn't notice this. So I was complaining about the fact that it plugs into the battery case, but in here you can see that you'll pull the case off, you'll put this on, there's a seal on there to weather seal it. This still maintains weather sealing. And under here, look at this, easy access ports. You can plug in another, what's that? Probably a set of headphones or I'm assuming not a mic, but probably a set of headphones, a USB-C, and then some sort of other input plug. I don't know what that's for, but you can likely charge the camera while running the mod and also use headphones, which is really cool. Let's get this thing on there. I'm so stoked about this. So we'll put this clip on. Looks like it just snaps on there. Yeah, that was nice and easy. Wow, I'm so pumped. This media mod was such a big selling feature for me for the type of riding we do. I don't really care if the camera's bigger. I'm not really constrained by size. So let's get this case cover off. Boom. So we got the battery in there. We're gonna slide that in there by the looks of it. Nice tight fit. Pop right in there. Clicks in. Look at that. We got the media mod. Wow, that thing looks sweet. Let's soup it up even more with the light mod. It's like an off-road vehicle build. It's my camera build, yeah. Subscribe to me for more camera builds. Actually, that'd be kind of cool. So there's a lot of different options for like little lights, but I just decided I was gonna go with the GoPro one. It's a little bit more money, but it's fully waterproof. And I wanted a good quality product. Another cable that synchronizes well with the rest of the camera system. So I went out and I got this one. So it's a cold shoe mount, a standard cold shoe, and it looks like they've also got an adapter clip for a regular GoPro mount that comes with it. This light gives you 3 power modes plus a strobe. On low power you get 3 hours, on mid power you get 2 hours, on high power you get 1 hour, and then it also gives you like an overpower mode where you can hold the button and it goes insane bright for like 30 seconds. So that goes up on here. Boom. And you know what? I mean, I'm an off-roader. I got like 20 lights on my machine. So I'm not just gonna run 1 light bar on my camera, guys. I had to get 2 light bars. I just had to. It's got 2 cold shoes. Might as well use them both. I'm not just gonna waste one. So yeah, I got 2. Cause why not? Same as the other stuff. Let's mount our secondary light bar. Boom! Yeah, baby, look at that thing! That is a sick camera. Now that's an action cam. We got our dual light bars set up. We got our shotgun mic set up. We got our case. We got the access for the extra charge ports and everything we'll need in there. They're weather sealed. Look at this. It's nice and big. Easy access on there to connect it to our selfie stick, or my favorite. There's no mount more versatile, especially for what we do, than the Jaws mount from GoPro. And you got to get the GoPro. And I tried all the cheap, crappy off-brand ones. They break, they rattle, they don't hold tight. Go with GoPro accessories, guys. It really is worth the extra money. Let's take this old frame off here and this Jaws mount with the 360-degree swivel on here, which is also one of my favorite GoPro accessories. And the aftermarket ones suck because they get loose. This one I've had for years and it still works well. So this is going to be my new go-to mount for the GoPro 10. Boom! Look at that setup. Oh man! Oh man! That is awesome. I mean, that's sweet. Look at that. Oh yeah. Man, that looks mean pointing at you. This is gonna get some good video. Yeah. Oh yeah. Cool. Nice. Yeah, there you are. Here's our new GoPro 10 setup for Team Adrenaline Junkie Prod. Dual light bars, shotgun mic, nice Jaws mount with a 360-degree swivel on there. This is your go-to #1 setup for off-roading. These clamps hold strong. Even with all this camera on there, that clamp is going to hold strong. Even on the roll bar, it's not going to fall off. I've tried and tested these grips, and these clamps work awesome. This is the #1 recommended setup I would do for you guys right now. If you want a GoPro, get yourself a GoPro 7, a GoPro 9, or a GoPro 10. Slap on the media mod if you have a 9 or a 10. Get yourself a Jaws clamp mount. Get yourself a 360 swivel base, and go to town. This is your most versatile mount that you can run. You can mount it on other vehicles. You can mount it on trees. You can put it anywhere you want. You can stick it to a branch on the ground. Like you can, I've put these onto rocks and stuff like that. Like, look at that. That is a mean setup. So I promised you guys one more thing. I promised you guys we would go over some basic GoPro settings. So I'm gonna grab one of my GoPro 7s and I'm gonna show you the settings that I rock on them. And then we're gonna call it quits for this video. I am so stoked about this setup. I really am. That camera looks awesome. I cannot wait to use it. I hope you enjoyed the unboxing. I had a lot of fun with it. Also, these lights also come with a diffuser on them, which is actually pretty important if you're shooting like very close up at night, for example, because it'll prevent like the highlights going crazy. Okay, let's go over our GoPro settings. I'm gonna slap a battery in there. If you're looking for batteries, I highly recommend going with GoPro batteries. I've tried a lot of off-brands. The only other batteries that I find work well in the GoPro 5, 6, and 7, I haven't tested the newer cameras, is the Wasabi Power ones. They work as good as an OEM GoPro battery, I find. in all conditions. I've used to buy just GoPro batteries, but I've switched to these. You can get 2 with a rapid charger for a really good deal online or from the Wasabi Power website. It comes with this charger and a cable. It's a rapid charger, 2 batteries, and the charger is like $33 or something. It's a great deal. Otherwise, GoPro, straight from them, get their batteries. Sometimes they go on sale, but even regular price, they're not expensive. They're only about $25, I believe, $24.99 for a GoPro 5 to 7 battery. So right now I'm shooting in 4K 60. So we're gonna go into our settings. Now, assuming you're shooting 4K at 60 frames, you're gonna be shooting in wide most of the time. You don't have super view in 4K 60. And then you're gonna wanna turn on your Pro Tune. Pro Tune is going to give you the ability to adjust all your stuff like your shutter speed, your EV compensation, your white balance, your ISO ranges, the sharpness, the color, and the audio. So, people always complain about the white balance on the cameras not being good from GoPro, in the sense that like the camera doesn't know what you're doing, especially when it comes to like changing terrain, like in a forest or a grassy area, there's tons of green. So the camera will be like, oh, it's too much green, and it'll fill in with like reds or something, or yellows, and it'll make your colors off. The same goes for like if you're in the snow, there's way too much white and the camera will go crazy. So if you're shooting just outdoor footage, riding footage, out in daylight, regular kind of average day, not like torrential downpours and super cloudy, but just your typical average decent riding day, just set your white balance to 5500K and it'll give you a natural color. If you don't want to mess with that, I've shot an auto white balance for years with very good results for what we do, especially if you're okay making some minor corrections in post-production. Your ISO ranges are important. You need to go online and look up what ISO does. It comes back from the film days, and it's basically how sensitive to light is your film. 100 ISO needs twice as much time to expose as a 200 ISO, 1/4 of the time, 4 times as much time to expose as like a 400 ISO. So it's the sensitivity of the film. They've just carried it over because it's a way people understand light sensitivity. With higher ISO comes more graininess. A lower ISO will require more time to expose a shot, but it'll get more depth, more detail, because it'll be exposing every frame longer. If you're shooting 60 frames a second, you have to expose 60 frames with enough light and data in that time frame to capture the image that you're after. The biggest thing you need to remember about ISOs is low ISOs when it's really sunny, high ISOs when it's dark. So I find that the GoPro shoots really well up to about 1600 ISO. After that, you do get graininess and you do get a quality drop, but grainy footage is better than blacked out footage. Usually I run between 200 or 400 and 1600 ISO when I'm riding mixed conditions, but when I know I'm riding my trails at home, I will usually lock my ISO in like when I'm in the main trails and it's middle of summer and there's leaves and it's like diffused light, then what I'll usually do is I'll lock my ISO between 400 and 800, knowing that that will be an adequate range. So you'll have to mess around with what works for you, but generally speaking, if you don't want to mess around too much, 200 to 1600 is a safe range. Let the camera decide. White balance, if you feel like playing with it, 5500 is a safe spot for regular outdoor. Auto is fine. EV compensation, don't really worry about it too much. We can get into that in a more in-depth video. These are basic settings. Color, I like GoPro color. I like how saturated it is and how much contrast there is and the vibrancy. If you don't want to do much post-processing, and I do quite a bit of post-processing and I still use GoPro color, then go ahead and get rid of the GoPro color and just stick it to flat. Flat will really wash out your colors and it'll require you to make all the adjustments later on in post-processing. If you're trying to get more cinematic film, stuff like that, then that would be good for you. If you're shooting action video outside, GoPro color is great. There's a huge debate on sharpness. Do I keep my sharpness at medium or high? Now, if you want to add all the sharpness in post-production, you're going to shoot in low. Your camera nerds are going to shoot in flat color and low sharpness because they're going to do all the editing and the post-processing themselves. Generally speaking, if you want to do no post-processing at all and you just want to cut some clips together and upload them, I say shoot in high sharpness and shoot in GoPro color. It'll look super crisp in the finished product. If you think it looks over sharp, drop it down to medium, but at least medium. Now a big thing is raw audio. You always want your raw audio to set to high. What that does is GoPro applies processing to the audio clips and it cleans them up. It gets rid of some wind noise. It gets rid of some other noise, and it really improves the clip quality, and it also produces a separate audio track with every clip. So it'll have the onboard clip that's attached to your video, and it'll also duplicate its own unique audio track that's the same length as your main audio track, so you can sync them up easy. But what that lets you do is it lets you clean that track up even more in a program like Adobe Audition or something like that. But if you turn that off, it doesn't process your audio at all, and you'll get much lower quality audio. So on top of that, I told you can run stereo or you can run wind mode. Don't ever run wind mode. Just forget it exists. Always run in stereo. You're better off dealing with crappy wind noise than dealing with in and out audio cutting in and out, levels changing like crazy for no reason, you being in a situation where there is no wind noise and the camera being like, there's wind noise, and just destroying your video because it just destroys your audio. What else can I tell you? Stabilization, I have it set to auto or off. You can have it on. You want to use the stabilization. That's what you're paying for, guys. When you're off-roading, then the stabilization is what makes these new GoPro cameras. Anything from Hypersmooth 2.0 and up is just absolutely mind-boggling at how well it works. I'm not going to go into the science behind it, but it's pretty awesome. So let's quickly touch on the different camera modes you can shoot in. I shoot in 4K 60. A lot of your computers won't be able to handle 4K 60 footage. It's just the way it is. It's just going to be too extreme. And you don't need to upload in 4K, generally speaking. The happy medium and the best bang for buck, file size and quality wise, is sticking to 2.7K. 2.7K at 60 frames a second for action footage is what you want to shoot in. That is the minimum I would shoot in. You can shoot 1080 at 60. You can actually shoot 1080 at 240. So like if you're doing slow-mo clips, then you can do 240 frames a second. The higher the frame count, the more you can slow it down without quality loss. So essentially there's 240 separate images being recorded every second there versus 60 here. So you've got 4 times the images being recorded, but you need more light. You need more stability. I don't think there's see, it says stabilization not supported in 240. So that's for like a static shot mounted somewhere, a roost, a burnout, a power slide, something like that. It's to add B-roll basically, or to tripod mount it or clamp mount it somewhere and you know, film a tire blowing up or like just something cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would recommend not even touching 720. 1080 is your bare minimum. And then really, I'd say stick to 2.7. For most of your riding footage, you should be shooting at 60 frames a second. That's more than adequate. You can do 120 if you want, but stabilization is not supported in 120. So I would recommend 2.7 at 60. If you have a powerhouse computer or if you want to play the 4K game, remember the file sizes are going to be massive on 2.7 and they're just ludicrous on 4K. On a weekend, I can usually generate about 500 gigabytes of footage. I mean, I can generate that in one day off 3 or 4 cameras shooting in 4K. In the GoPro 7 in 4K, you can shoot up to 60 frames a second with hypersmooth stabilization. That is the best mode these cameras can handle. Now in the GoPro 10, obviously I'm going to mess around with those settings and see what I can do. In 2.7K, your options for lens angles or your field of view are bigger because you get the super view mode. That's that typical wide angle image that GoPro's kind of become known for. Generally speaking, I shoot in wide. I only throw it into super view sometimes for certain shots when I really need to get that wide angle to capture something. So I'll drop down to 2.7 to do that, and then I'll upscale it to 4K for my video. So 4K at 60. 4K at 60, shooting in wide with an auto shutter speed, white balance of 5500 if you're outside or auto, ISO usually between 200 and 1600, but during day rides, usually between 200 and 800. Sharpness, happy medium is medium. GoPro color, raw audio set to high, and your mic set to stereo. And that's really all you need to do. And then figure out your camera mounts and learn how to do some post-processing. You don't have to do a lot of post-processing, but if you can learn how to do a little bit of post-processing, then it'll help you a lot. I use Adobe Photoshop Premiere Pro, CC. I use the whole Adobe Creative Cloud app setup. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Thanks for watching. Aside from the fact that I got this new GoPro 10 all decked out with basically all the accessories they have, I know that in the future they're also going to be offering an upgraded like mega lens setup for this, which I'm super stoked about. I'm not sure when it comes out. I think it comes out sometime in 2022. I'm definitely gonna get that. I can't wait. That's like a really big feature to me on this camera. If you're getting a new GoPro, I already touched on batteries. Get yourself a bunch of batteries. You need at least 5 batteries if you want to film throughout the day. And with 5 batteries, you're still gonna have to remember to turn that camera off and not leave it running and stuff like that. I bring out, on average for a ride, I bring out about 25 batteries to power my 3 cameras. And sometimes I go through all of them, sometimes I don't. But what it does is it takes the stress of maintaining batteries out of your head, and you don't have to worry about, being near the end of a ride and having some wicked footage to film and running out of battery power. Nothing's worse than that. Or sometimes you forget to turn a camera off and it drains the battery because you're having lunch and you just leave it on for 40 minutes. So obviously, with that being said, I bought myself a 2 battery charger, a dual charger. Always get yourself a external battery charger for your GoPros. So I got this dual battery charger. It came with another GoPro battery and a cable. And then on top of that, I also bought 3 more GoPro batteries just because I know I can rely on the GoPro quality. So I have 5 batteries now for this camera setup. With the 5 batteries, and I'm still gonna bring my other 3 GoPro 7s with me. With the 5 batteries on this camera, I know I can use this as my main kind of like handheld camera. And then I can use my other 3 as like my backups or put on other people's machines, as well as the camcorder you're watching on now. That's like my main camera I like to use when I can. So here we have another battery. And we got 2 more. So I'll have a total of 5 batteries plus this 2 battery charger, and that'll get me going for now. Obviously, as I keep going, I'll probably go out and get another 4 or 5 batteries and probably another charger, because at night when I come home from a multi-day ride on like a Friday, I want to charge all my batteries for the next day, because I don't have to worry about, I don't want to worry about not having the juice I need to film the content. You never know what's coming. Also, sometimes I'll run a charger in my Razor throughout the day. I used to do that when I didn't have more batteries. So only having 5 GoPro 10 batteries, I might just bring a charger with me and throw 2 on charge in the glove box, because I've got a USB charger in the glove box. I got a cable running there to my battery, like a hardwired one. So I can run the charger in the glove box when I'm riding. Or what I do is when I get back to camp, I just plug them in, and then while we're hanging out, having dinner, stuff like that, I charge up all my batteries. So it's good to get yourself some 12-volt USB adapters so that you can charge your cameras and your batteries on the go or in your truck or wherever. And then it's obviously good to have some like plug-in adapters so that you can charge your batteries when you get back to camp or at home or something like that, because you'll need that in order to use the USB charger that comes with the 2 chargers set up, or with the GoPro. You can charge batteries through your GoPro. I don't recommend using that as like your go-to source. If you're out and you need an extra battery charge, or you got to top off your battery, yeah, do it up. But generally speaking, try to stick to the charger. It's faster and it's better. You don't want to rely on your camera. These are lithium-ion batteries, and once in a while a battery can mess up. You don't want it messing up when you're charging, or you don't want to leave it on for like a day or 2 and forget about it and like get your camera too hot, something like that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed a bit of the insight I gave you. I hope you can find some of this stuff helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. If you have any requests on future videos and uploads, let me know as well. I know this content isn't as popular for everybody as my riding content, for example, but I know there's a lot of smaller channels and bigger channels that watch this content. So big shout out to you guys. I want to kind of give back to the creator community in a way that I can. The off-road power sports niche is kind of like a unique one. So there's unique challenges to filming and creating content in this niche that a lot of other videos that I've watched on GoPro, like settings and tips and tricks, really don't apply to some of the extreme content we're trying to capture. So once again, I hope this is helpful for you guys. If it is, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. If you want some cool Team AJP swag, then check out our Shopify store. We've also got some cool new channel sponsors we'll be announcing really soon. So I'm really proud and honored to have some more people joining the team, some reputable brands you guys will be familiar with. So that's going to be awesome. As I mentioned, I will be doing a video that's more specific to GoPro mounts, all sorts of GoPro mounts and accessories, both stick-on mounts and like all sorts of mounts. I'm gonna go over where I mount my GoPros on my Razor, what has worked for me in the past, what hasn't, as well as some things to remember, tips and tricks and things to avoid when mounting your GoPros. And we're gonna do a separate video on audio, because audio is hard, guys. I still struggle with it on some videos. It's the most difficult part of creating all this content, is capturing the quality audio. Hopefully, with that being said, the audio quality in this video is up to par. I've been trying to dial in the kind of podcasty audio here. This type of filming is new to me. I have a new mic here from Maono. They sent me this mic. It's an Amazon company. They contacted me, saw the videos, and asked if I wanted a podcast mic, and it was actually perfect timing because I was just getting ready to start this video. So if you watch the first 1 or 2 episodes, you'll see the audio in those wasn't too great, and I think I've stepped it up since then. So big shout out to them for hooking me up with this mic free of charge to test out. I think you can get it on Amazon for about just under $80. It's a really good deal. It comes with headphones and wiring and this whole mount setup. So if you're thinking about doing some videos like this, I highly recommend you get yourself a podcast mic setup like this one I've got here. In a future video, we will also talk about post-processing and the software I use. I use the full Adobe CC suite of products. I've been using Adobe software for years. It's a subscription-based service, and it really is the best in my opinion and worth the money if you are a serious creator or even a committed amateur. It's well worth it. We'll also touch base on the fact that you can use some free software and how you can get started with that. Anyways, I'm done for now. Most importantly, guys, get out there and ride safe out there. See you in the next video.